You're listening to an AINC original podcast. We believe you don't have to do life without a compass. Let us be your guide on this amazing journey. Welcome to Navigating Life with Vision Loss.
Hello, you are listening to Navigating Life with Vision Loss, brought to you by the Audio Information Network of Colorado. I'm Kim Wardlow, your host for today. Thank you to Jonathan Price for subbing for me last week while I was at our International Association of Audio Information Services conference. And I appreciate him subbing for me and the wonderful interview that he did with Morten Bonde. I just want to remind you that our hike is going to be August 12th. Breakfast will be here at our studios in Boulder. Then we'll be carpooling and doing the hike at Chautauqua Park, and then back to the studios for lunch. So this month we are covering personal and professional development. Last week was the first interview with Morten Bonde, and that really focused on personal development. And this week we'll be shifting and focusing more on professional development. So let me just give you a little bit of an intro of Morten. If you didn't join us last week or are new to the show, I definitely recommend going back and listening to the first part of this amazing discussion with Morten Bonde. So Morten is a motivational speaker and owner of Morten Bonde Development and Vision Publishing. He's an experienced senior art director with a demonstrated history of working in the consumer goods industry. He's skilled in art direction, advertising, brand development, concept development, writing, and storytelling. After his time at Lego, he launched into public speaking and writing, and now has a TEDx to accompany his book and journey into public speaking and personal development. You can find out more about him at www.mortenbonde, MortenBonde, so anglicized it looks like Morten Bonde, .dk, or I believe from last week you said .com would also work. You can also go there to book him as a speaker. So when we come back, Morten will share with us his personal journey with vision loss and how he shifted his mindset and changed his careers as we focus this week on professional development.
This is Navigating Life with Vision Loss. If you have a question, please visit us at aincolorado.org/podcast-guest. Make sure to subscribe to all of our podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. And now, here's your host, Kim Wardlow.
Hello, Morten. Thank you for joining us again this week.
Hi, Kim. Well, thank you for having me.
I'm sorry I missed your first interview. I listened to it, but I'm sorry I wasn't here to speak with you last week.
Well, that's what happens. We managed, I think, Jonathan and I.
You did. It was a great interview. Is there anything you wanted to add from last week that really talked more about your journey as you lost vision and your personal development?
Well, I don't know. I think we pretty much covered the journey on the personal side, well, it was of course a blow to my life and to my family's life. My wife and I, we were starting our lives as adults and planning on having kids and settling, and then this bomb just landed on us, dropped on us, and
right.
So we had to figure out how to navigate from there, and the way that I decided to do that was by ignoring it. So a great plan.
I think it's a lot of people's plan, but doesn't work real well.
No. But in a way, it actually does. When people ask me today if there was something I would do differently, I'm really, really sure that I wouldn't do anything different, because at that point, I had been in the advertising industry for 2 years, and I had finished my degree, and I was planning to become a star art director. And if I had changed anything there, I actually had 15, 16 years or 20, more than 20 years in the advertising industry with a vision loss issue. And I think that journey shaped the person that I am today. So I wouldn't go back and change anything. Then I wouldn't be me today.
Right. And I think that's good advice for folks too, that sometimes you just have to walk through that, and it can be difficult, but that's how you grow and learn, just by going through that experience.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really do any good to regret or look back and say, if I had just done this, then I wouldn't be in this situation. But, all the things that I learned through all these, the struggle that I had with slowly becoming blind and having a job that was highly depending on my vision, it really, I think the wisdom that I've gained is probably something that you would probably have or reach when you are an old individual and sitting in a wheelchair somewhere and looking back at life and kind of got it all figured out. I think this transformed my learning curve has been really high. So I'm grateful for everything that has happened.
So shifting now to the professional development side, how did the personal work you did affect what you were then undertaking professionally? So you had your career at Lego as art director, and then shifting into what you're doing now.
Yeah, you can say what I'm doing now is sort of a consequence of my condition, retinitis pigmentosa. It kind of shaped the way that I transformed into becoming a motivational speaker and an author. So you can say it was out of necessity that I had to transform. And I think unconsciously I started in 15, 16 to realize, not willingly, not consciously, that I had to shift my path, because being an art director who had to look at things, and if you've ever seen a Lego City commercial, for instance, we had this flyover the Lego City with all the bricks and all that, and having the overview and especially with retinitis pigmentosa, which is tunnel vision, it was a problem. So I think what I started to do was to shift from being very visual to becoming more of a thinker. So, and you can do that in a company like the Lego Group, because it's so big and we have so many people. So I slowly just transformed myself into becoming a writer. So I was more coming up with the stories, thinking out the scenario. So seeing that TV commercial in my head and coming up with the plot and all the craziness that you see in these commercials. And so I really didn't think too much about it. It was just natural for me to do that. And of course it was because it was becoming more and more difficult to see. Mm-hmm. And it was only in 16 that I learned that I was legally blind, and I had no clue that I was. So I was already starting to shift, and then I spent much time in my much spare time on writing the book and creating the lecture and the talks, and I gave talks to companies while I was still working at the Lego Group. So it was kind of a balance act there.
Right. So a lot to do both at once.
Excuse me?
It was a lot to do both at once.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was really great. I think everyone at the Lego Group could see that I was sort of inventing my own path in a way, and I was getting much support from my management, and yeah, it was. But it was really tough actually, because being the only one in a crowd of hundreds who has an invisible disability, which retinitis pigmentosa is, because on one hand I can see, I can you can't really tell when I'm just standing there that I'm legally blind, so it's so difficult to be the one always explaining why did I tip over this cup of coffee again, and why can't I find things when I'm just looking straight at it. And so it was really tough and demanding to be the one always educating people around me. So and we were in a very sort of a transformative environment. So I constantly shifted the position, had new people around me, new groups, new teams, and so in fall last year I decided now it's time for me to say goodbye to the Lego Group and concentrate on my project here.
So you made that decision, and so can you tell us a bit about what Morten Bonde Development and Vision Publishing does?
Yeah, Morten Bonde Development. It was kind of a joke name, because I'm in this one-man company, and I said, what would be the name? What would really be a grandiose name? And Morten Bonde Development. I said, I develop people, and I develop minds, and I develop. So that's what I'm going to call it. And it is sort of the company name for my speaking assignments, the jobs that I get from companies who book me to give talks. And then I started also to do individual conversations with corporate employees and private people on how to create what I call inner peace in outer chaos. So what I experienced when I was working at the Lego Group was that, I was burning out. I was constantly, occupied by thoughts about how do I manage the situation? How will it end? What will happen when I'm totally blind, if we get to that? And how would my family be, And I was just constantly occupied by thoughts. And then I started figuring out that, we all, as a civilization, we are, in our heads all the time. So
yes.
I started to teach myself to be more present in my body, be with my senses and being in the moment. And then I shifted from being an art director to becoming a mindfulness instructor. So that's what I am now, and speaking, of course.
And were there particular challenges related to your blindness in making that shift? Certainly you had challenges while you were with Lego Group as things changed and people around you changed, as you said, with the constant education. As you've switched into your speaking career, have you found things that your blindness has been more challenging than perhaps if you were still sighted?
Well, I think everything has become easier, I think, after shifting from being, with hundreds of people and collaborating, right, and reading mails and, always having to be prepared, spending a lot of time reading stuff and being prepared for meetings. And that's why I kind of have an aversion to that now. I rarely prepare anything. I'm living my life now in a constant, oblivious to what is going to happen in the next moment, which I really enjoy, which I would never have imagined, because I was always, looking for the next problem. When I was working at the Lego Group and I was a senior art director, I probably spent half of my, mental capacity to foresee or to, put my mind into the future to sort of anticipate what can go wrong today, or what are my tasks today, and with my limited vision, how will I manage this situation? How will I manage that situation? So I did so much planning in my head that I kind of burned out
Right.
at the end. Yeah. And I think I hear it a lot from people who have retinitis pigmentosa, and I think a lot of other people and regular people who just are busy, that we are so occupied by the future and then trying to anticipate it, and often it's we get to predict it in the right way, but often it everything just happens differently, and then we spend so much time imagining up, scarcity and scenarios that never really come true. I think it was Mark Twain who said, "I had many worries in my life, and most of them have never happened in reality."
So right, never come to be.
Yeah, exactly. So I think today I really enjoy my work because it is about being present in the moment and
so
just
truly in the moment. Each moment.
Yeah. So when I guide people in mindfulness meditations, or share information, or share what I have learned from my path, it's just me being connected to this moment, and I never know what I'm gonna say in the next moment. I'm just letting it come, and then not worry too much about what it is that I'm going to say. Is it good? The inner judging and, putting label on things and evaluating afterwards. I could have said that a little more cleverly. I could have, I forgot to say that. And, I just abandoned that. So I'm very, persistent on never getting an outline for an interview. I just want to be there and listen, and then who knows what will come.
Well, that's great, and I am trying to learn from you in this aspect. I think life would be I don't know if simpler is the right word, but maybe a little less stressful, if not projecting all these things in the future.
Yeah, I had a boss at the Lego Group who was he was heading up the Lego agency, and him and I, we were often in the studios together. He was there as a supervisor, and he was just joining, and he was sort of supervising all the creatives. So he was the one to go to when we had to approve an idea, and he revealed to me one day when I asked him, how can you not be stressed out? You are the gatekeeper for the all these teams and projects, and he said, I just show up and I never prepare anything. I'm just using my experience, and I let myself, just be there in the unknown. And I was so impressed by that, because, I was constantly preparing and had written notes, and I was I have to remember to say this line because that's really clever. And then you never, you could never remember it because it was so I was really impressed by that. So I had that in the back of my head when I started planning for this next thing that I'm going to do, which is what I'm doing now, coaching and having conversations with people. Just show up, not get it too much into their background, just listen to what it is that they are telling and sharing, and then something will come up. And I just allow myself to trust that.
Right. And I think for so many of us, the thought of just showing up and being there in the unknown, I think the unknown often creates fear or anxiety for folks. And that may be part of why we try to plan everything out so it doesn't seem so uncertain. But as you said, it doesn't mean it will go as planned.
No, and it's because we're so are relying so much on our ability to think, but we can't think up the future. We can't think up the unknown. So what happens is that because we can't think of the unknown, that side of us gets scared because, you know, it's scary not to know what's going to happen. If you rely on the ability to think about what is going to happen and then respond from there. So it is really a shift in your state of being to rely on you just getting what you need in the moment. Yeah, and we often know what to do in the moment. So it's like a tennis player, you know, if he thinks too much about the next hit, it's going to go bad because he's not going to use his ability to think when he plays tennis. He's just there doing what it is. And it's the same here. That's what I try to do in everything I can really feel that the level of stress that I had when I was working at the Lego Group, and it wasn't the Lego Group's fault. It was, you know, the conditions. It has almost taken a year to get off the addiction to all the, you know, the brain chemistry that I was creating for myself, cortisol, stress, and adrenaline, and I often wake up feeling, you know, a little bit panic about not being extremely busy. So because my body just says, "Oh, there's something wrong. You need to be busy in order to feel good." So it's but I think it's too many people are addicted to their stress hormones, and it's not good.
Yeah, no, it isn't good. I hadn't thought about it actually being a form of addiction, of being so used to that and not being able to make the switch. So as part of what you're doing for yourself, but also as you're working with other people, I know you have started doing different meditations. I saw that on your website, and I would think that would be a key part of making this shift in mindset.
Yeah, sure. And it was sort of dynamic. It wasn't because anyone told me that I should, you know, learn how to meditate. It was when I asked myself a question, that the question was, can I become a person who can see possibilities instead of limitations? And can I tell myself a new story about becoming blind instead of the story that I was constantly repeating? And the story was, you know, it's going to go bad and it's going to be horrible and it's going to be all that. And then I started investigating, and it led me all the way to the Far East to study Buddhism and Hinduism, and mindfulness was something that was kind of a buzzword when I started looking into it. But I really got deep into the philosophy behind the mindfulness practice, and then I simply started to implement it in my life. And I explained last week about the challenges and the way that I reprogrammed the way that I, you know, respond to things, because it's really the automatic system, you know, the autopilot just kicks in and reacts when we are in situations where we're a little bit stressed more than the state of calmness. And instead of relying on that autopilot, we can bypass that and you know, be really present with the moment, and then something else will come than the old pattern and the old reaction. So mindfulness was about noticing what it was that I was constantly repeating to myself in the mind, and also noticing the patterns that I was repeating when I was, you know, stressed out. Then there was the old lion who got activated instead of the you know, the quiet side that would kind of maybe wait a little bit and see, okay, if you just stand here and breathe, everything will be okay, instead of just reacting.
Mm-hmm. And I think it would take some time to be able to, as you said, you feel like it's taken you about a year to really be able to change that. I would think it would take practice. to be able to not, when you're stressed, to not just revert back to your old habit and what you're used to doing.
Yeah, it happens. It still happens. I think it's human, but it's about practicing not being like, the mass of, the way that the most people, modern people today, live their lives is a little bit in a state of stress. I think everything, all the things that we have to think about, all the responsibilities we have is so much different than how ancient people were living. They were living harsh lives. Don't make any mistake there, but they were much more in contact with the moment, because it was more about being in the moment than thinking about the report that I had to hand in to my boss in a week. So today we have different problems than the ancient people had, and so I was just curious enough and dedicated enough to start doing the work, and that was daily practice, daily meditation, and then I could feel the difference. So that's a good thing. So when you actually feel that it makes a difference, you get okay, this is good. I'm going to do that again. So it is basically about habit formation, how you work with your habitual patterns and how you change them.
And I also wanted you to mention your book as well that you wrote.
Yeah, it's the book we talked about in the last episode, the Sentenced to Blindness Now What, and it was a project mainly for myself. When I started writing the book, I knew that the best way to master knowledge is to become an expert in it, immerse yourself in it to a degree where you can teach it to other people, because then you can play with it, you can formulate it in different ways. It becomes you. And I knew that the research for the book, that would, make me immersed in the material for a couple of years. So I was deeply immersed in philosophy and in science, in biology, and all these things. I just put it into a grinder, and then out came a book that was partly about my journey, my transition from being a person who was really sad about becoming blind to realize that it's just two eyes. It's just one tiny little % of my entire body, my entire system, and there's so much other good stuff that works in my body, and to become grateful for that was something that I just couldn't before I started doing the work, because I was only focusing on my loss of vision. That was so I was focusing on that, and that was just a tiny percentage of me. So I started to become aware of all the gifts that we are offered every day in just, the sun rising, taking a breath and doing all those things that we just take for granted. It's, that was also part of the transformation, focusing what it is that I want, focusing on what it is that does me good instead of focusing on what doesn't make me good.
Right. Well, for someone who is going through RP, is losing their sight, maybe in their midlife, later in life, what encouragement can you give them for folks in that situation? And perhaps also, as you did, facing maybe a career change, or learning how to do what they've been doing with some accessibility of that tools, if that's possible.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, because it's it has to be something that comes from within. As I say, I have to be sick of being sick and tired. Like you have to come to a point where you say, I'm so sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I don't want to do it anymore. And because it's very easy to be, in a victim mode. It does good for some, people can live their entire life as victims, and it's something that happened to me, it's my eyes it's the eyes that is the reason why my life is not working out. It's my, all the things that we can point at. And I think the first step is to accept that we or they or I am in a situation that is as it is right now. And the situation for me is that I have 3 degrees of vision left. Mm-hmm. And if I can't accept that, then my life will be misery. So learning, starting to be interested in how can I cultivate the ability to accept what is happening to me right now in this moment. And then people will realize that life only consists of right nows. The future doesn't exist. It's just a prediction, and the past is just a memory.
It's gone.
And there is only now. It is amazing what happens when you really, really understand that there is no life outside of this moment. And then it makes really sense to make a really good decision in this moment, because then the other now that is coming is going to be, from a point of maybe acceptance that the previous moment was this, and now I'm transitioning into the next moment. And so it's really about being present and aware of that we have this inner voice, and it keeps talking to us. And if it keeps telling us a story that, because of my vision, my life sucks, and it's my family's, and they're not taking care of me, and they're not doing this, and then they're not doing that. That has to stop. That is the first step, to realize that, no, I am the only one who can change my life and my situation.
Yeah. Yes, I agree with you. And I think sometimes that's the hardest step. But if you have a good moment and you can build on that good moment, so the next moment can be positive too. I can see where that leads to a more positive outcome down the road.
Yeah, and it's another way to use our imagination and our ability to create stories. But when we have a mind that would like to see, the negative side, because it's a survival instinct to kind of anticipate the worst case scenario. So if you're in the moment, can stop yourself when you think, oh, this sucks. Then, I came up with the stop swap thought idea, the game in my book. And it demanded of me, and it challenged me to, within 5 seconds, accept and realize that now I am complaining about something that doesn't change the situation if I complain about it. If I, within 5 seconds, find something that is positive about the situation, then I can transform it. And that's what I call this brain alchemy. Our ability to change the chemistry that we create ourselves through our thoughts. So in the moment, see, okay, the bus is it's just driving. I didn't make it. Within 5 seconds, say, okay, now I have 5 or maybe half an hour extra time to listen to my audiobook. Great. So, coming up with all those stories that it kind of helped me instead of take me down. That is really key.
Right. And I think too, to encourage folks who are trying to practice this concept, that it's okay. You're not going to master that overnight. And so it's okay if you find yourself slipping back into the negatives. The important thing is to stop yourself and switch, and stop yourself again and again and switch. To create a new habit.
Yeah, and the most important thing is to, every time you realize that now you are going on what I call hopelessness street, the moment you realize it, you have to embrace yourself. You have to almost say to yourself, great, way to go. You noticed that you are repeating an old pattern. Mm-hmm. Wow, you noticed it. Great. So having this sort of inner cheerful voice that says, well, it is not about being positive and not being negative. It's about noticing when I am negative. And then I have this sort of da-da in my head, and I say, I noticed it, and it doesn't help me. I might as well just find a positive angle to this. Yeah. And then it never becomes sort of, now I'm negative again. I'm never going to make it. Then it's going to be like a positive affirmation to yourself. You praise yourself for noticing that you are repeating old patterns. And when you start doing that, you become the observer of your situation instead of being just an actor in it. You get to write the story instead of being in the story.
Right. Well, Morten, is there anything else that you would like to add in terms of professional development that you'd like to share with folks before we close for today?
I know, I think it's very, sometimes I feel that it's not fair to just, say to people, go for your dream, mm-hmm. Because life is just not like that. You don't get to just live out your dreams because we are not, at least from where I come, we are not brought up to think that we can make everything come true. It's because we have a reality that often shows us the opposite. So I would encourage people to maybe start to look into what if I had no obstacles in life whatsoever? What would I like to do then? So just play with the thought, not putting yourself into a situation where you set yourself a goal and in 2 years I have to, but just start to think and start to imagine and fantasize about what it is that I could do if I didn't have any obstacles. And then it starts to become sort of a little bit, it's like a sparkle in the stomach area, and it grows and it grows. And that was how I, managed to self-publish a book, because I started to imagine, what if I could actually write a book? And in the beginning I had, 10,000 voices saying, no, it's never going to happen. You're not a writer, forget about it. So there, all those things that got up against me becoming an author was insane. So I just started, to just be with the idea, and then slowly adding, start doing something about it, investigating, looking into, being curious, reading books, listening to audiobooks. And so I think I would encourage people to be a little curious and interested in how can I put myself in a position where I am more open to new ideas and new experiences than just being the old version who says no to this, because I've always said no to that, and just start to, maybe I'll say yes this time and see what happens.
Well, that's great advice. Morten, thank you so much for joining us this week and last, and helping us to close out our month of June on personal and professional development.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
In July, we'll be talking about health and wellness, and we'll be looking at 3 areas, physical, mental, and spiritual health. So be sure to join us for that. And Morten, how can people get in contact with you?
Well, the easiest way is through mortenbonde.com. And from there, you can navigate through the website and find my mindfulness content. There are some free meditations there that you can listen through various services, streaming services. So mortenbonde.com or innerpeaceinoutofchaos.com is also a possibility.
Okay. Great. Well, thanks again, Morten, for joining us, and we look forward to having you on the show again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. So, and also Amazon, you can just type in sentenced to blindness, now what? And it's also on Audible, and I narrated the book myself. So
wow.
you can also go and get that.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks for all of you for joining us today. We hope that all of this information is helping you to navigate life with vision loss.